Welcome to the Reinvent You show. I'm George.
I'm Azlan. It's about seeing everyday challenges
Differently. And I think I wrote something in lyrics in a song, and it was about what if my dreams never come true? You know what I mean? Like, you know, when you've got these dreams and you wish to do something big, but then because there's so many obstacles along the way, and sometimes they feel insurmountable, and sometimes you get perfect storms that make you feel like, will I ever get there? And it's funny, there's part of the lyrics, will I ever get there? And it's daunting, Azlan, to think that you could stand for something so important, build your entire life around it for it to materialize. But then you have to confront that you could have spent your entire life thinking that you're going to do something great and it doesn't eventuate. Right?
We've all been there.
Yeah. And so then through the lyrics, I was trying to find a resolution to that fear. And it landed.
What was that?
The real dream is becoming yourself.
Ooh.
And that is the only thing that matters, because if you can really lean in and just become comfortable in your own skin and connect with everything from a place where you are just being what you feel fully, right? It's like that is so rewarding. There is nothing outside of you can conjure that you have to attach to for meaning that can ever compete with that depth of meaning of just being yourself.
Very profound, and I completely agree.
And I didn't know that I was going to get there in the song. I was just genuinely writing the song from the fear of, shit, what if my dream don't come true, boy? Like, I was like, I genuinely was thinking, man, I need some music therapy here. Let me write down, let me go on it. It was like journal entering, but through song. And then when that landed, oh my gosh, I felt an inner shift. It was so good.
It is so relevant, because I know of a few friends who are now on antidepressants because they can't accept who they are, and they always feel like they have to prove themselves. It's normal in Asian culture to have that feeling, and the dad doesn't think that they've achieved enough. Got them through medical school and they didn't pass, so then that trauma sort of stayed in them, and now they're trying to be someone else. And it's funny, like you're right. I think having that realization of, hey, you know what, that's the goal, is to be myself. And I've had so much, my personal experiences, doing this stuff on YouTube has been so much fun. It's been so easy. Like you writing music, it's easy and it's fun. And so, yeah, I wish that on everyone, to have that. I'm still learning, don't get me wrong. I'm still learning my
Oh, you're not perfect yet. Can I write that down? I don't want to forget.
Yeah. I'm still a work in progress. See, I've learned. I'm a
But what
Padawan.
if that never ends?
I'm okay with that now.
You've made peace with
I've
that?
made peace with that.
All right, that's good.
I'm still trying to learn how to be nice to myself, and like bashing myself, I still do quite a bit. But I soothe myself. And I learned one additional dynamic to that is when you soothe yourself and say, it's okay, hey man, everything's fine, you also think about what have you done well. So
you know what I find amazing? It's like we're raised in an environment where we are on fire. In other words, we're burning up with self-judgment. And then we have to learn how to douse the flames.
Yeah.
And then eventually we have to learn where the faucet is that's causing the gas leak that keeps the fire going. And eventually we unpack that and realize, oh my gosh, like the elephant in the room was I had to prove I deserve to be nice to myself. Like I had to fight for me, and I had to fight dumb ideas that keep pushing me into feeling inadequate and not good enough. Like, it is fascinating to be human and to have this weird game. It's like a game, right? It's like, hi, baby, we're going to fill you with really dumb ideas to make you attack yourself. And then your job is to try to get out of that. Yeah. Good luck.
It's like that show Maze Runner where,
Yeah, I actually like that. Are you talking about the movie?
Yeah, the movie.
Yeah, but there was 1 and 2. I really liked that movie.
Yeah, that was nice. But yeah, we do that to ourselves. And, being in a corporate culture as well doesn't really help when they reward certain things, but not individuality. But now there's a lot more focus. It was so funny. I was in that leadership course. I was having a chat with this guy, and I said, "Look, I'm really interested in how has leadership changed." And if you think about back in the day, it was Industrial Revolution. It doesn't matter what your boss say. Your boss can abuse you, but you're there to work to survive. Our grandparents. And then it was the Information Revolution, where everybody was trying to get info. Encyclopedias, and then the internet came about. And now information is everywhere. And now it's like the social, I don't know what revolution this is, but it's more...
When you're in it, it's hard to pick what the hell it is. We're in the washing machine right now.
We are in a good washing machine. But it's more about well-being. Like so we've got the money the money situation is a lot better now. Compared to the industrial revolution. You're not working to survive, like or else I'll die sort of thing, But now it's more like, okay, I've got this option here. I've got this, I want a good quality of life, balance, and I want to feel good at work. If I don't feel good, if I'm working for a dickhead, I'm going to bounce. Like not completely changed now, So I was asking him about his view of whether that was aligned to where he was at. He says, it's funny you say that because I used to work for a dickhead for 7 years. And if you were to ask me today if I would work for him again, no. I'm of that thing as well, like well-being. Individuality, yourself, And one of the guys said to me when he overheard that, he said, when someone doesn't like you, it just tells you about him, And thanks for now I know more about you. Stay away, sort of thing,
Yeah.
So.
It reminds me of feedback. Remember we talked about feedback. If you get very good at qualifying feedback, you end up exposing the dickhead factor in real time.
Can you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah. So if you give me feedback that it has a tone of judgment, condescending, aggravating in the way you're delivering it, I have to pick apart not just the words, but the tone. And I have to ask you whether that truly represents your feedback. Because if I don't do that, I'm literally letting the Trojan horse into my being to unsettle me and make me feel awkward and down.
Right.
Like, so if you say to me,
let's do a trial.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to do that. So say you came out of that talk with the leadership thing and I went, you know what? You did all right, but, sometimes you're a little bit full of yourself.
I get that from my wife a lot. I'm joking. She does say that, but...
Does she?
Yeah. Well, I'll explain a bit more.
Oh, man, I got a long list with my wife, how she... when people say to me, when I play that game of, trust me, I know I'm not perfect, my wife has a long list.
I asked her this, though. This was just yesterday.
Yeah.
I said, would you rather have a husband who is negative and perpetually hates the world, criticizes everyone, or would you have someone like me and who's positive? She says, for you for sure, but there's a limit on how many times you say you cook the lamb well. 8 times in one day is too much.
That's called toxic positivity.
Yeah, that's right.
Where you do the person's heading
with the same topic in 8 different ways. And so I said, okay, that's fair. Anyway, sorry, we're coming back to your example.
When you're passionate about what you cook or something, you want feedback because the whole point of the passion is to make a difference. So say the food's on the table, you just want to absorb what landed with, and you, because you want it to keep getting better, someone might say, it's a bit light on salt, or it's this, or it's that. It's like, oh yeah, really? Okay. Because your brain, that's how I am anyway. But if I say to a person that will remain unnamed, if I say, it needs more salt, cook it yourself.
You bastard.
It's like, it's so foreign where I'm coming from because it's like, but it's about us wanting for each other, what works.
Better,
It's not about, I'm dissing your being,
Yeah.
But anyway, we
Digress.
digress and regress.
Both. Yeah.
But it was worth it because it was a good laugh. Anyway, coming back to this thing of, I just said full of yourself, right?
Yeah.
That was not a good example because I was trying to come up with a way to respond to you where the words were correct, but the tone wasn't.
Oh.
Right. So what I should have said, I just got to think of this. It's like, yeah, you did really well. You did really well. See that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like
weird.
It's like passive aggressive. I'm letting you know that I'm going to gaslight you, but you can't come at me because I've said the right things.
Oh.
I said you did really well. I don't know what the problem is, everybody.
The tone in which you said it. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So is that gaslighting?
No, that was an example.
Oh, yeah.
That was an example of making you the problem, but I'm making sure you can't come back at me.
Wow.
Because I said the right things.
Damn.
Yeah. And you know what? When we're in a bad mood, we will sabotage our messaging because the tone will give up where we're our true position.
That is true.
Versus what we're saying, right? Now, if I did that to you, how would you respond if you were insecure and worried about not being good enough? How would you respond?
Well, obviously I'll probably be aggressive. I'm not aggressive, but
potentially you might actually say, "Oh gosh, he doesn't like it."
Yeah.
Damn, and
I think it also depends who says it. Like if it's my wife or if it's someone close to me at work, I'll be like, what do you mean by that? What is that?
Yeah, you would call the tone because you're hearing the tone. You're not caring about the words.
Yeah.
But if you're a bit intimidated by that person, you might go, "Oh, thank you," but you are hurting inside.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Right? I mean, if it's somebody up there, up there, I don't know whatever that means, but yeah, I would definitely feel insecure and I'll question myself. What did I say? Like I'll go deep and then.
Yeah. So if someone delivered it that way to me, I'd go, I'm sure I probably did some things well, but I think you're being too polite and you're holding back on the things I didn't do well based on your tone. And I would really value that feedback.
Wow, I like that.
All right. So then that person goes, "Oh shit, this person is too strong within themselves and they're not going to let me be passive aggressive and they're going to call me to be honest." Now, if they then deliver feedback that is opinion based, and that it doesn't reflect all the feedback and the actions aligned to that feedback. So sometimes most people just are trying to be nice,
Yeah.
We have a lot of pressure on ourselves to be polite. We live in a polite society. The downside of that is, we want to be kind to each other. But the downside of that is the depth of quality feedback that helps us grow is compromised. Because nobody wants to tell anybody anything negative.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All because our brain thinks if we're positive, we're kind.
We don't give feedback.
If we mention anything negative, we're being unkind. And what's that statement? What's that phrase that if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all?
Yeah.
It's like, and we hang our hat on that bloody phrase. It's like, where is the growth going to come from, right? So anyway, the reason why I'm going to lens on this is because I'm trying to say that it's a balancing act because is the feedback genuine? Is the feedback useful?
Right.
On the positive and the negative side. Because if it's genuine and useful, you win, whether it's negative or positive. Positive says keep doing it. Negative says here's how to here's how to start the process of getting better. How's that not a great thing? Keep doing what's working. Here's a process to get even better so it works even better, right? So feedback is never the problem. It's our insecurity complicating the relationship with that feedback. And it's other people who use the lever of feedback for bad competition, manipulation, resentment. So therefore, it's like, I hate the fact that you did well. Now I'm feeling like I can't compete with you. Now I feel like in that struggle, I'm actually going to have a go at you because of my jealousy or envy.
Ooh, that's deep.
Do you know what I mean?
Layers, yeah, I know what you're saying.
And sometimes people are not being honest with themselves in that they have that position. And to be honest with you, I'm not getting on a high horse on that, because I know that we all are, we're on the spectrum of everything. That includes insecurity, which means sometimes someone triggers us into feeling awkward or inadequate. And now they become the pin-up person for reminding us that we're not measuring up or we're not where we want to be. And we wrongly attach them as the problem, when really it's just a journey of we're supposed to accept ourselves for wherever we are at, with good and bad, and just enjoy the flow of growing, period. But we just, it's all well and good to keep repeating this philosophy, but the true journey is the subconscious needs ongoing recalibration to keep making that journey progress. Because remember when you said, I remind myself, be kind to myself. I remember talking to myself like I talk to my son, because I love my son more than me.
More or less.
I'm learning to love myself maybe as much as my son, right? And then I said to you, all right, look at the metaphor. We're on fire and we're going, oh, I got a bucket today with water and I actually stopped some of my fire. I'm winning. It's like, yeah, but why is a fire raging?
In the first place, yeah.
Yeah. And I think we need to call that, we just need to appreciate that that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a level of handicap that is so absurd that it really is humbling. And I think it really deserves real compassion for the way we are. We can be captured into a state of being that's so disconnected from the core of who we really are that we have to search for buckets to just try to keep the fire of judgment at a tolerable level.
So would it be, no, that's great. But I had a friend who asked me this question. To put out that fire, you'll have to pour, like you either have to pour a lot of water or you have to move somewhere else. But let's just say, how would this person finds that having self-love is a very selfish and arrogant way of living.
And that is the fire.
So this is my point. This is my question is,
you got to understand the fire. Look closely at the flames. Right. It's conceptual. Sure, we're using the metaphor, but if you look, when in the Matrix, he bends the spoon and he goes, it's not the spoon that bends. The mind bends, right? Well, that's because your mind has been wired to create a fire. Bend the mind and the fire takes care of itself. Now, when you go extreme, like
narcissism or toxic positivity.
Yeah. But also narcissism is on the selfishness. It's like, it has to be about me. It has to be about me. I need everyone to like me, right? But what is the counterbalance of that on that extreme? you don't think it's real, which is why you have to create a theater and you have to use all the resources to get everyone to love your lamb. You have to remind them that the lamb is good. Do you see what I did there?
I just cooked lamb and I was really proud of what I cooked. So yeah, I completely.
Yeah. So you kept telling everyone, it's good lamb. It's good lamb. Come on, everybody. It's like a campaign. It's like you're a politician for lamb. Vote for the lamb expert. But
I see what you're saying.
it's like we are stuck in this idea of, come on. Accept that I'm an expert at something.
Right.
It doesn't matter what it is, right? But I think that our true journey is to feel the level of gratitude and contentment of where we are already at. And then from that place, whatever we do create is a adventure, a sharing, and a feedback opportunity to enjoy. It's a love-based journey. The fire is a fear-based existence. It's like, oh, I found the bucket. I can douse the flames, right? It's a survival. But what are you surviving? It's the identity crisis is the essence of the fire, isn't it? Because it's like, who am I? Well, apparently I'm someone who has to freaking prove to everyone else that I'm worth having around.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's tiring.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's, and it's in my subconscious. It's in yours. I don't think I've met someone who doesn't have that in their subconscious. And the problem with that is if you think you can go and do personal development and then be delivered, ordained into the, I am so spiritual now, I'm a child of God universe, right? Then the brain, the ego tricks you into thinking you're above everything and then you've arrived.
Yeah.
And
traps you.
Man, that's another part of the fire because trust me, you're gonna create a lot of people rolling their eyes and feeling disconnected from you if you go from, I'm not good enough to I've arrived. Isn't that interesting?
That's very interesting. I mean, it
means what are we arriving to? What if we don't have to arrive anywhere? What if
we're constantly a work in progress?
Yeah, and if we're a work in progress, what is the part of us that isn't a work in progress? That is real, authentic, forever, that is a gift from whatever the unseen creative force is, that we have been given the ability to have free will, imagination, blah, 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 all that list that we've talked about. It's like, why can't we really connect to the preciousness of what allows us to be in a moment and make decisions of how we experience life? Why can't we go all in on the beauty of that and then everything else is upside?
I really want to put this into a practical application for myself. I think this comes back to gratitude, being able to appreciate where you are is puts you into that state of mind, I guess, that you don't have to really chase and this is okay. Everything is great. But
that whole movement around gratitude and you get a gratitude rock to remind you to be grateful and all this sort of stuff. That kind of was annoying me because it's like you're asking people to look for things of why they should be grateful, right? And you're asking them to repeat it every day. But the problem is that's a top-down trying to force
lip service.
Yeah. And I'm thinking surely there's more of a critical thinking process that makes gratitude more authentic. Because if it's authentic, it's super glue. It glues in to how you feel.
And it's constant.
Yeah. Rather than trying to put a bucket of gratitude on to douse the fire of ingratitude. And it kind of holds the brain in a sense of immersion long enough for some residue impact. But then what happens? Well, we know what happens. The ingratitude flames just flare back up again. So I think we got to be better at arriving at gratitude in a more authentic way.
I haven't figured a way how to do that in a way that I enjoy. to be completely honest.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's top down. It feels very lip servicey. It feels very like, I don't feel right. But it all comes down to feeling. And I think focusing on my feelings now has changed. It made that process easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, coming back to that topic so I know this friend of mine, right? Coming back to him, he doesn't believe that. He says it's selfish. Azlan, you're being selfish. I said selfish, but I'm not seeing myself better than I think when it gets really, really like shady when, like you said, like you talk well about yourself, you feel good about yourself, but at the expense of another person, then that's something's off there. But for us, when I say us, I mean people in Asia, in this culture. I use that reference a lot because I think a lot of people there can relate to me, right? It's like talking good about yourself that's not wise, but it's not a respectable thing. It's it's good to do it, but to shut up. Like,
I think that there's a balance and an accountability to meaningful purpose around why would you talk about yourself unless it has genuine value meaning for who you're telling. Like,
what if it's telling yourself? Like, that's what they're saying as well. That is sort of
it's the same because if you're giving yourself lip service as a rah-rah kind of I want to build myself up, you're not going to buy that Kool-Aid if it's not built with depth of reasoning. You see, I am good, I am great. That's just like that lacks contextualization in reality.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
I am good at writing a song because I end up with something that I want to keep playing over and over that moves me in a nice way. And even if I'm the only person that loves that song, it's good enough for me. Suddenly, I'm content with that for me. Do you know what I mean? But if I say, I'm good at writing music and I'll leave it at that, it's like, what does that even mean? Like, do people like your music? Maybe not, or maybe sometimes. Like, and what track record have you got for you to hang your hat on that? And, like, I think the lack of contextualization is where we get lost. And it's because we're desperately trying to douse the flames with a quick stroke of a blanket or something.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And then we're wondering why it doesn't go out very easily.
It's almost like that topic that we talked about. When you give feedback, you have to connect with it and then you tell that person what you actually truly feel and where it connects, right? It's the same thing with self-love in a way. Like, it's not just lip service. You got to connect with the topic and really feel it,
Well, I mean, the theory is, like, if you're trying to be better for others, all those principles and processes you're learning to do that, wouldn't they be equally relevant to how you treat yourself?
Yeah.
For your relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
So, that's why feedback, it's funny we've come back to feedback, but it's probably because evolution relies on feedback.
Yeah.
And us being a work in progress relies on feedback. So maybe it's just a temporary phase of an overarching lever in being human and learning to be powerful for purpose. It's like we really need to come at this feedback in a few ways to really give it the substance of understanding and value it deserves in the way we are relating to ourselves every day and others.
Very, very true. And you just gave me an idea as you were talking. I'm going to try to do this to my son now. He asked me a question yesterday. He said, Mama, do you love me? And he every now and then, nowadays, he asks us that question. And so, and then he says, why? And then
How old is he?
He's 7.
That's pretty cool. That's powerful.
And so now I ask him, my son, one thing about him is when you ask him a question, he freezes. But when you tell it from your experience, Like, I love you because of this, and really connect with that, And even things that he built, I realized I've been giving him lip service. Like, oh, he drew something nice. And I went, oh, that's very nice. I like how I like this thing and everything, but I don't really connect with the drawing. It's just lip service. But now I want to connect with it and I want to do it to him. And then one day he can do it to himself. And I'll ask him why, what do you like about that? Why? And then get him to connect with it. I want to train him to be nicer to himself and to have that engine. Because when I say those things, he can see him smiling and I want him to do that to himself because I'm afraid that he might seek that sort of response from outsiders going forward. Not everyone's going to be like me and mommy, Someone's going to say shit for what it is, and then he's going to be like,
collapse.
Yeah, he's going to. So it's so funny how I don't even know how to. I'm trying my best to get him to be his own engine. I always think of that Iron Man suit where they've got that thing. And I want him to have his own nuclear reactor.
Oh my gosh, what a great metaphor. Yeah. I love that. Because now we should actually look at what that is and what are you really wanting to impart? Because sometimes we are confused around the outcome as the value, not the process that creates the value.
Yes.
And that thing that you just pointed to is the process.
Yes.
And you want to imbued him with the process.
Yeah.
And that process is modeled by example. It's how you treat yourself in front of him that he will replicate more than what you tell him to do. Because it's process.
It's true. But I have to verbalize it. And he doesn't respond well when I'm telling him. But when I realized to my wife, I said, when you want to talk to him, you don't ask him, how was your day? Just say, oh, my day went really, really well. I had this done, I had that done. I'm really, really grateful for this. And I made a mistake. We have a fail board now, and I failed on this. And then he's like, yay, And then he will start talking about his day, just by default. I don't even start with I don't even ask him anymore. So I'm trying to get him to get into the process of loving.
You're such a good dad.
Oh, I'm just trying, man.
He's a work in progress like us. But I'll tell you what, I don't think you can ever have a manual unless the manual is a process of how to be balanced. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How to always strive for balance and not flog yourself on the way there. Yeah. Because it's not easy. Because children are going to throw at you such extremes in their development, and we're going to get tested and triggered. And I remember, I've said this before, I think my daughter was 9 at the time, and she said, "You're the worst father in the world."
That killed me.
Really?
Not now, but...
Do you know what I responded with? Firstly, I started laughing. And then I said, I don't believe you. You haven't had every father in the world to be able to do a proper comparison.
That's funny. I like that.
Well, it was important that I knew the context of her having a go at me.
Yeah.
And me being able to stay solid and not be triggered in that insecurity.
Wait, was she being funny or was she...
No, she was angry and upset.
Oh, right.
But that's important because if you see someone angry and upset, they're going to express in extremes.
Yes.
And she felt like she wanted to hurt me because she felt hurt.
Yes.
And my job was to stay solid and not let my insecurity feed the dynamic. But I have to say, I reckon my joking and laughter was a form of coping.
For sure.
Because I don't think she needed me to be a comedian in that moment.
Yep.
So to be fair, it was more... Sometimes I get too caught up in my narcissism to be entertained, And that reminds me, of my poor daughter has been raised with me going, so Holly, tell me more why you love me. Why do you love me so much, Holly? And as a kid, she just looks at me and goes, and so she learned that I was being cheeky and toying with her. And that it's called milking praise, right?
Yeah.
And she learned to sledge me instead. And I love being sledged. So yeah, it became.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a really good relationship with your child.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
I see how he said sometimes, not most of the time. It's just that sometimes.
Nah, it's really cool.
Yeah, interesting. What else happened this week? Let me think about what else happened this week. So wait, coming back. Sorry, I'm just going to circle back to that feedback thing. It triggered my mind again. If that person said that to me, that leader said that to me, right? And if I was really insecure, I would probably ask that question. But what if I'm really confident and I go, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about? Do I still seek his feedback? Or like, I'm just thinking, because when you're insecure, it triggers your insecurity and then you then want an answer and that's how you do it, right? But what if you're super confident and you go, nah, I did well. I mean, come on, everyone was clapping. People are messaging me. Do I really need to seek that additional feedback, which I probably don't need? But then again, it could be useful.
Yeah, that's really good. You framed it that way, and that's why I go back to that. What do you call that inner core from
the Iron Man, the nuclear reactor?
Yeah, that process of power is the key. Is balance,
right?
Because balance gives you the full presence of collecting all the data. And that balance keeps you humble to what else might be there that you're not connecting to. But it helps you connect to your inner value so that you're not shortchanging yourself.
I like that. So go and ask for it anyway. I like it.
Yeah, but sometimes your intuition is so spot on with the full data that you'll know your history with that person. You will know their dynamic of impact on people around them. Mm-hmm. You will know your own purpose of how much you rely on that person. Like all of these variables will be part of your data set so that you'll be guided with how you engage that person.
Right.
So if that person was of no material impact in your everyday, or week or month or year, but they were just there as part of something and then they gave you that feedback.
I would be interested to know if that was it.
Yeah, unless you knew enough about that person to know they're struggling and so you'll go, oh, that person's struggling. I'm just going to allow them to be what they have to be, but it has to be water off my duck's back.
Right?
But then what happens is that you trade on patterns. So he's an anomaly. Your brain says, this piece of feedback is an anomaly. I've assessed the source. I've already got enough data to know that person's insecurities and the way they cope. So therefore, I'm making a judgment call that I don't need to know anything more from this person.
Right.
So then you may take a tactical decision and go, oh, thank you. And you pretend to mirror their pretense, right? You may make that call because sometimes you got to pick your battles. Being authentic is great as a default, but sometimes you have to, there's an exception to every rule. Like one of my extreme examples is if a psychopath launched into a room with an axe and they said, where is Azlan? I'm going to lie. I'm not going to tell him that you're under the table. I'm going to go, that bastard ran down the street and I don't know why. And let that psychopath
go that
way. In other words, you have to read
the room,
what's going on. And 1 in 1,000, usually 1 in 1,000, you have to be strategic and you have to conceal truth because someone is too extreme and they can't handle the truth, right? But the default is being authentic.
And not passive-aggressive, because that sometimes works for me.
Well, to be honest with you, if you
works for me, but...
No, it's a coping mechanism. Yeah. It's you have, Azlan, passive-aggressiveness is everywhere. It's everywhere. Even the Australian culture, and I'm not going to pick on Australia because I would dare say Asia.
For sure.
Yeah. it is much easier to keep your cards to your chest than to actually be a little bit aggressive and say, I'm not happy. I think you're the problem.
Yeah.
Right? It's easier to not trust than to say, I'm hurting and I want you to be better for me. Right? So whenever you have people who are aggressive, where they go around and they're too sharp and they lack tact and they don't care about the vulnerabilities of people around them and their insecurities, they are going to breed an ecosystem of passive aggressiveness around them. Because it's the natural coping mechanism. It's the counterbalance. If you're going to be aggressive, you're going to get passive aggressive reaction. If you're going to be too passive aggressive, you're going to taunt people and they're going to get aggressive with you. Because they're going to be so infuriated by your dishonesty and not owning what's going on and playing them.
Yes, I actually understand what you're saying. This comes back to one of the earlier conversations that we had a long time ago. So you're saying that an aggressive person breeds a lot of passive aggressive people around them.
Yeah.
And passive aggressive people do the opposite. They breed aggressive people because the person will realize why you're being, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But why be passive aggressive to begin with? Is it because you're afraid? A lot of Asians are passive aggressive because we don't want to scold people. So we.
Yeah. And to be fair, when you have someone who wears their heart on their sleeve.
Me.
Right. Yeah.
Work in progress. No judgment here, everyone.
I kind of wore it for a while and it got bruised. So I tucked it a little bit further up the sleeve.
Oh, gosh.
You will get ambushed and blindsided by people who are too captured by their own moods, selfishness, insecurities, and they will cut you because you just expected people to be really kind because you were being kind. Right? It's like a one-dimensional value exchange, right?
Ooh, that happens in the corporate world all the time.
Yeah.
They go, Azlan's not stable. He's weak. He can't stand out to this person. He's a people pleaser. I'm like, what? Like you hear all these stories. He's just being kind, but then, push comes to shove, I can do it. It's just how they play the game. And you're like, why did that person say that? And then you realize that person wanted your role, and then you win. But anyway, sorry, continue.
Yeah, that level of naivety, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then you get hurt. It really cuts because you don't have a barrier. They get straight in, right? The heart's on the sleeve, right? The arrow just goes straight in.
Bam.
There is no fence around. And when we talk about balance, we talk about where's the level of reasonable protection. But don't overcook the protection because you'll end up walling yourself up with no windows and life can't get in. Adventure can't get in. New ideas can't get in. New relationships can't get in. So overprotection is a disconnected state when you take it to its extreme. So you have to learn how to be protected enough so that wherever your vulnerability is at, you can be functional. So in other words, if I'm really insecure, I might have to be a little bit more strategic to make sure I'm not exposing myself to levels of criticism that would derail me. But my job is to address that insecurity more and more because I don't want to be that strategic.
Yes,
I want to be
correct. Same.
I want to have thick skin, but if I make it too thick, no one will reach me.
Yeah.
But if I have it too thin, people will accidentally hurt me all the time because I'm going to misinterpret their intentions of what they say. And even if they did try to hurt me, I'd rather not get hurt and call them accountable for the way they're treating me. So too thin skin is not tenable. Too thick skin is also not tenable.
Okay, where do you see this strategy? So my coping mechanism for that sort of feedback or that sort of scenario at work where people, you're being kind and then you suddenly find one person stabs you in the back to get your role or whatever, or tries to paint you in a picture where, you're all over the place, disorganized, when really they are the ones who don't understand what the hell they're doing. And they just, anyway, in that scenario, when I find out of these scenarios, my coping mechanism is, I go 180 and I go, you know what, man, the universe or God, whatever, loves me. I know that for sure. I know I was kind. I know I was with good intent. Because of who I am, I'm going to get tons of opportunities. Like there is nothing that's going to limit me. This person, yeah, sure, whatever. This is just one role. But I know I know that if I continue being myself, it's going to be awesome for everyone around me. And too bad this person just misread not misread, misfired or misused me in a way that, you know,
backfired on them.
Maybe not yet, but then
right, gotcha.
But then
so they created an advantage.
Yeah.
By manipulating you.
Correct. But people will eventually find out, and they know what Azlan is like, you know, at work, and they go, that's not true. I've seen his schedule. He knows what he's doing. And so I just disregard that and I go, it's okay. I forgive you. I'll move on. God loves me. It's funny. It's funny. I'm easier towards people than I am to myself.
Yeah, I know.
It's bizarre.
But what I'm hearing is that you're great at resetting and not losing your mojo, like staying strong with that perspective.
Yeah.
But you are spoiling people into thinking that you're a soft target.
And what's wrong with that, though? I don't know.
Because what it does is it encourages the person to think they can get away with continuing to behave that way.
Until they meet someone who doesn't take that, and then they'll get schooled in that.
For them.
Yeah.
But you remain the soft target. Like, you have to decide what relationship, what contracts you have with everybody in your life. And if someone has a contract with you, and let me put words to this contract, right? Because I love doing that, because it brings out the absurdity of the contract, right? Hi, Azlan. I am going to smile and on the surface be really kind to you. But I'm going to angle and maneuver to take advantage of you at every opportunity. But I'm going to do it in such a way where I never own that I'm doing it. And your job is to actually allow me to, because you don't like confrontation. Can we shake hands on that agreement?
Okay, now that you put it that way.
And then you shook hands on the agreement. You went, all right, I won't confront you then. But I'm not going to like it, and I'm going to be passive-aggressive in my own way and disconnect from you. Look, that's my clause in the contract. Are you okay with that? And then, all right then. And you hang and you shake hands.
Okay, wait. I'm okay. Wait. What if I'm not? Because what I tend to do is I don't become passive-aggressive towards this person.
You don't.
I don't. But what I do is I forgive them. And the way I know that I've truly forgive them is if I can sit in the same room, knowing that they did what they did without them knowing that I know, and being okay to just have a chat. That's when I know the forgiveness is complete.
But I think you have got thick skin against yourself.
Oh.
Because is that really the way you should be treating yourself? Like sitting with your abuser and going, I'm going to compartmentalize the abuse and allow you to continue to stay connected with me, to benefit from me for the next opportunity.
But why would that be an issue though? Because if I have, it's like you play Warcraft. I used to play Warcraft, and there's this cheat code called greed is good. You have unlimited money, unlimited, And I'm like, if I had all of the money in the world, I don't care what opportunities you take from me, because there's more. There's always more. And my life is showing me there's more. So you can, this in surface level, but I know we're in a corporate setting, and we're going to be made redundant eventually. You're not my wife, you're not my son, so don't worry about it. You take this ice cream, bitch.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah. But the thing is, they'll angle for the next.
Yeah.
Angle for the next, and angle for the next. And then you'll find 3 people angling for the next because of the way you're operating.
Right. So then what would you do then? Would you call that person in the room and say, I heard you say this, but why did you say, you literally confront that person, the contract.
Yeah. Now this is interesting, because this is the whole point of why we don't confront. So remember the principle of confrontation, which is the reason why we don't like to front the con. So,
I see what you did there.
Yeah, but in Latin, it's like con is to be with something and to be with the front. And if you're with the front, it means you are connecting to the full details of the truth. Now, if you confront someone who thinks it is in their best interest to manipulate and to angle for advantage over someone else, and they don't have an abundant attitude, they don't have a creative problem solving to synergize where everyone's benefiting, that they're being conned into being something that is a win-lose. And remember the golden rule: win-lose means lose-lose, because it's unsustainable. So if it's not win-win, we're all going to lose, right? So what you're doing is you're tolerating win-lose because you've decided, that's okay, I'll lose more because I've access to more resources to let that leaky bucket continue to be that way. It's like,
good analogy.
That's not good engineering. Like, why would you keep a leaky bucket? So what if there's abundance? Why would you just allow a leaky bucket? It doesn't make sense. Right. So then you turn around and you front that con. But when you front the con, you should be confused and sincerely trying to understand, not going with judgment. Right. So, because sometimes, seriously, that person may be coming from a place that where their perspective generally made them think that it was okay to be that way. And they will never know it's not okay, or you will never learn that they didn't mean what they meant until you front the con. Because did you get conned into thinking that person was bad? Did they get conned into thinking that they had to be bad for advantage? There's a con somewhere. And we have to believe there's a con, because in the purity of a sustainable value exchange, coming off abundance and negotiating and creative problem solving and critical thinking for win-win, anything that holds the illusion that we can't have that is a con job.
Wow.
So imagine that default philosophical foundation of anything that looks like we're not winning together. There's a con going on, either in my perception, in your perception, or both our perception. Now when you confront, it's easier because you're not going in there with a whip to whip them. You're going in to understand.
Right.
Hey, look, I just want you to know this unfolded and this came to my attention, and then this happened, and then you did this. And it looks like a win-lose situation when really I think we should be winning together. Am I missing anything? What was going on for you? And then you just be quiet. Let them fill in the gaps. If they lie, there'll be more questions because the dots weren't joined. If they're honest, they'll either own it or they'll give you genuine information that made you realize you missed something. And then suddenly they're impressed with how you believed in them and you followed the nuclear inner core of Iron Man's process to leverage truth.
I like that. I really like that, but it takes effort. Damn, I don't have time in my day to do it.
It takes more effort maintaining win-lose bullshit with a leaky bucket.
You're right. Because then you always have to plug that, and there's another leak there. And God damn it! I see what you're saying. I like your analogy. I like it. Well, wow. Okay.
But it takes courage.
Yeah.
But you know what? Maybe it takes less courage if you look inside of you and confront the con in you, because you think it takes a lot of courage. What if that's a con job?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
What if win-win shouldn't need courage?
Man, wow. Okay, so I know, now to change my perspective, if this were to happen again, I have to do three things. Well, two things, three. The first one is I have to believe that, hey, this is a win-lose. It would be greater if we win. It's not sustainable. We got to go win-win.
Even if it looks like a win-lose and you don't want it to be a win-lose, that's healthy.
Yeah.
Because now you're going in neutral, trying to understand, is this a win-lose? Because it feels like a win-lose and I want to make sure it isn't.
Yeah.
That's helpful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And the second one is conning them from their ability to realize their true potential. I mean, to help them to live through their empowerment principles, because they're acting in a way that is not aligned to their best selves. So it's more of looking at that person and going, I'm robbing this person of an opportunity to get better. So that's my second motivating factor.
I like that, yeah.
And then what's the third one? Because I need to have some juice, something about courage.
Let the truth do the heavy lifting. You see, truth is abundance.
Yeah.
Creative problem solving. There's always ideas for win-win.
Mm-hmm.
The process of critical thinking will get you to understand the problem in enough detail to make solutions of win-win possible, and that everybody benefits. And in our innate good nature, we want win-win because we know sustainable value exchange is a non-negotiable in this world. That's the truth. Let it do all the heavy lifting. It's the nuclear friggin' thing in the core.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you want to teach this to your child.
I know.
But look at you squirm. Can't I just give it to my child? Do I have to have it too?
No, it just takes effort. You know, what if it was just a one-off thing and, you know, this person was coming from a bad place? But if it repeats, if there was another leaky bucket, then sure, I'll address it now.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
It has to be a pattern.
It has to be a pattern, yes.
Yeah,
yes,
I agree. If it's an anomaly and it never happens again, then you might say, I probably misunderstood that, so I'm going to let that go to the keeper.
Yeah.
I think that's legitimate.
Okay.
I don't think we need to nitpick
every single one.
If something looked wrong,
you
know, especially if you've got a good track record with someone, and they're consistently playing off you in a good win-win way, and then something appears win-lose and it startles you.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I believe usually in those instances, if you look close enough, you'll resolve it yourself without even talking to them, because there'll be enough data there to show that you've just warped your own perception because you were having a bad day, insecure.
That's what I mean.
But if something it just hit you too hard and it doesn't make sense, you can easily go to them and go, look, I'm having a bad day and I think I misinterpreted this because this way, and it impacted me so much. And I know we got a track record that's amazing, but I just wanted to share this with you because if my brain gets given more perspective from you, I think it's going to help me appreciate not to be so compromised in my perception because of that event. When you own it yourself, when you don't make it their problem, you keep it your problem. It can be okay to go to someone if something's untoward, you know, a bit of an anomaly, but it's a big deal for you and it's hard to let go. But generally, you'd let it go if it was just something minor and it's not a part of the pattern of how they.
I like it.
But the way you were, you know, talking to me, it was almost as if that person was great and only in one instance they weren't, and therefore why would you confront them? Is that the reality?
I mean, I thankfully in the past, for some reason, people like that, they don't gravitate near me for long. I don't know why. Maybe because they find me annoying being happy all the time. It's just our energies are so different that eventually they just move different departments or whatever. So I've never really had to address it in that way. But the reason why I was squirming was because if it's not a pattern, then it takes a lot of effort for me to try to understand where this person was coming from. If it's a one-off, you know, sometimes I myself am having a bad day and I might misinterpret. But yeah, for now, I think definitely now this feels a lot better. If there was a pattern, obviously, then I can address that. Because sometimes I let it go. There was one person who was just pattern for the longest time, for like 2 years, and then I just left it. Like I didn't address it. Like I could have, like you said, I could have fixed the bloody bucket 3 months ago. But I chose to let the bucket leak, and then I had to keep fixing it for 2 years.
Well,
why didn't I let you fix it?
Exactly. There's a hole in my bucket, dear Azlan.
Yeah.
But on that note, I think we're having a hard stop today.
Yeah, I've got to go.
And I think we've landed on something good. is there really a hole in the bucket, or is there the illusion of a hole in the bucket? I think that's on us to manage, because either way, we're going to win. Because if we have the illusion that there's a hole in the bucket, then we will experience a hole in the bucket because we will operate with a win-lose in ourselves. So it doesn't matter if it's the illusion of it. You don't want to live with the illusion of it,
because you receive it. You feel it.
And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Reality.
It means we develop a chip on our shoulder that doesn't belong there, and now other people are copying a win-lose off us because of the counterbalance. We can't live a lie, right, without consequence. So it really is about that critical thinking of, is this win-lose just me, or is it them, or is it both of us? Let me go on an adventure, because the treasure of removing the lies that keep us from sustainable value exchanges is always worth it.
Yeah, it's worth it from an emotional, spiritual, however you feel. That's worth fixing.
Yeah.
If it improves how you feel, fix it.
Yeah. Spot on.
I love it.
Cool, man. It's been great. I think it took a while for us to ease into this conversation. We might want to cut some of that riff-raff conversation in the beginning.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it's been a great session. Thank you everyone for joining us. And any last words, George?
Just be good to yourself. And when you catch yourself not being good to yourself, be good to yourself in the process of addressing it.
All right,
for now.
Ciao for now.
Thank you for joining the Reinvent You show.
And remember, don't take yourself or life too seriously.